Hey, everybody, welcome back into the Lettermen Lounge at Roosters on Olentangy River Road in beautiful Columbus, Ohio. This is Lettermen Live. I am Austin Ward. That's Bobby Carpenter, Nicole Cox, and Justin Zwick. And life is feeling normal again. The patio is bustling right out there.
Yes.
Busy.
There's appetizers. It's mac and cheese by tomorrow, so it feels like a Lettermen Row week.
It's a great Tuesday.
The weather is amazing. Bobby Carpenter was in the Woody last week, ending his long hiatus, I believe. Were you there for Pro Day?
Oh, gosh, that was like a 13-month,
The longest.
14-month hiatus. Zwick, I don't know if you were here when I said this last time. I go, since 2002, outside of Doug Callahan, who's the head trainer, head whatever now, some administrative position, paper pusher now.
Dougie.
I said outside of him and Sean Barnhouse, who came back, I go, I think I've spent more hours, and Sean Perkins, I think I've spent more hours in the Woody Hayes than any other person currently employed there.
I wouldn't argue on that.
I was like, I came back every year in the off season. I've been doing it since 2002.
You're the only guy I know that I played with that still goes back to the Woody Hayes. And, I mean, you work out and everything there. You have your own gym, basically.
Well, if I go, I help practice and do some other things. So, I mean, for me not going in there that long, I occasionally creep in and have some conversations, but I never want to be around the players because the last thing I wanted
to be the guy who gives them all.
Crazy old uncle.
Yeah, didn't want to be. He's like
Uncle Bob.
I always want the value I add.
Of course, like beer canisters in the parking lot. Oh, Bob was here. Uncle Bob was here.
Bob and Schleggs were in here lifting last night.
Be a value adder, not a value subtractor. And giving COVID to the team definitely would have subtracted value from myself.
You might have got your key card taken for that one.
Yes.
So that's more normalcy for you. I got to watch practice on Monday morning, 6 whole periods, which is like Christmas for me. Everybody who Berm got to go Friday, he only got 2, so that tells you.
Now, was it the 6 periods where they were stretching, doing individuals?
They didn't.
I mean, that's what Tresh used to do back in the day. He let media in for while we warmed up, and then, all right, you guys got to go. We're going to start doing stuff.
So they did not start the clock for stretching.
Okay.
So it was more like an hour for me, which is Christmas,
awesome.
like I said, a Christmas present after a year away. So that was amazing. Nicole, did something happen to you that makes you feel like more normalcy? Because we're all just Jay-Z doesn't feel normal. We had to get surgery.
I've been laid up on a couch for a week.
Actually, walking up today through the parking lot and seeing all the people sitting on the patio outside.
So many cars outside.
I know. It just felt really good. And, business is getting busier here at this location, which has been great. And we're just so thankful to everyone.
I almost stopped out on the patio because that's where we did them during last year we were out there. I was like, it's nice.
I mean, if we didn't have the lounge.
Well, I know we got the corner.
It's the lounge now.
And
it's just beautiful.
Autograph.
The artwork in here is just well done.
I mean,
I
don't know who your interior designer
thanks
is,
for
but
signing that. That looks so good.
Don't worry, don't try and sell that on eBay.
Bobby,
Nicole.
you have to sign yours.
I will sign mine.
Okay, I brought a Sharpie.
He doesn't want to mess it up at all. He just thinks that print is too perfect as it is.
Thank you.
Don't want to smudge.
Well, I know it's a nice picture of the arm there, but I'm sure I can figure out something and a way to work around it.
Okay, so life is getting back to normal. It feels great. Good to see these Buckeyes. And now, after all this, all the anticipation of spring practice, it's almost over. And the spring game will be a week from Saturday. When Ryan Day was saying on Monday morning, you got 2 weeks to get better. So for you two, as you've been through it, before Nicole dives into the quarterback race for us, what is the sense of urgency like when you get to the end of spring? How does it compare to the start?
You usually look around, and as we've seen, the position groups begin to thin out because there's always some injuries and things that happen. So you start out wanting more reps in the spring, and by the end of it, it's like, hey,
too many.
I thought we were going to try to
I'm going to be hurt here in a second if we don't slow this down a little bit.
Some of the other guys, and so you get these specific position groups like the defensive backs who run a ton during practice, and you're like, oh, goodness. Start thinking, well, we have to kind of limit and manage some of the plays we're running because we still have a full complement of receivers, and these guys can run 6 miles a day. Well, we've got 2/3 the DBs, so they're running, 8, 9, 10? So it's tough for those guys, but you really focus in right now. You've got a lot of your work done. But to me, it was always, how can I leave a lasting impression for the coaches and for my teammates as well? And it's usually not always in the spring game because a lot of it's controlled, it's focused, especially for the quarterbacks. Like, here's 3 plays, run these over and over. Here's your 3 plays on defense, run this over and over. It's, hey, you're going to get these competitive situations heading in really to this weekend because the last week they kind of toned some of it down for obviously the spring game. But we're ratcheting this up, and we're going to go good on good and work on some specific things and think, hey, this guy flashed right here. He can do this. We didn't know at the beginning of the spring if he could. We thought, and now all of a sudden you've arrived with that skill set. And so that was always my mindset. As you're kind of wrapping down spring, stay healthy, make sure that you're positioning yourself good going into training camp, and then hopefully leave a lasting impact with your coaches.
Yeah, I think staying healthy is probably one of the most important things for spring. I mean, yes, learning and being on the field and running through everything is great, but coming out of spring, you got to be able to take what you learned and you practice that up to camp or before the summer stuff starts. So these next couple of weeks with some injuries that they've had, coaching staff probably has to sit there and say, what can we do to make sure? You can't ever make sure, but what can we do to help these guys come out of here as healthy as possible? I'm thinking back to our spring. It was always the jersey scrimmage. Mm-hmm. You had a jersey scrimmage on Saturday. That was the most important part. Everybody looks at the spring game like, oh yeah, the spring game. Well, the spring game, you got makeshift offensive lines, makeshift, defensive lines. It's not the same. So you're going ones on ones, twos on twos. That's where you're getting your real work in. That's where you're getting the best film. And I just remember that being huge. And I forget what it was scarlet jerseys if you won. The winners got the scarlet jerseys back in the day. That's how we kind of did it. So it was kind of like a pride thing as well. It just gives you that little extra level of competition because you've been going against these guys for 2.5 weeks already. You got to give them something there on that Saturday to kind of shoot for. But, that's the last big test in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that Ryan Day calls it that jersey scrimmage, but that big one, that final.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's changed. That was just, Tress was,
I expect it will be Saturday of this week for Ohio State. Before, as Bob said, they scale down. They have fun with the spring game. It is for fans. I expect there will be some amount of people that are allowed into the Horseshoe next week, and then
legions of fans.
I don't know if it'll be legions, but it'll be a noticeable amount of people. Sort of a dry run for not only just having fans back in there with the pods and ticketing and media, sort of a dry run for them to reacclimate, because there will not be, I don't think, a full Horseshoe this year. That's still ways down the road. We don't have to talk about that stuff right now with a sense of normalcy that we're bringing to this week's episode. But anyway, Nicole, so Saturday will be important as you're going through ones and ones and twos for these quarterbacks. A 3-man competition, it's a huge deal.
It is. And I think to add to what you guys were talking about, I think too, with there being such a lack of play last year with such few games, I would think everybody's working extra hard to really shine this spring. So, and especially these quarterbacks now with the position open, CJ Stroud, Jack Miller, Kyle McCord, and the three of them, running for this position. And, Kyle McCord's only a first year. So, but CJ Stroud, that's who Coach Day chose last year when Justin Fields got hurt on that one play and put him in. So I'm anxious to see who will, get the position.
Yeah, you're going to win a national championship. You got to get that right at quarterback. And,
I would be more interested to see what the breakdown. I don't know if they put this out there. Breakdown on reps, right? I mean, a lot of times, you go in and having to meet back and say, all right, you guys are going to go 50-50. It's like, all right, well, I can do math. That wasn't 50-50. What's going on? I want to get my reps with those guys too, so I can show. So I would like to see how that breakdown is. But they're also on the other hand. There's so many young freshmen, receivers. I mean, there's so many playmakers on offense that the offensive line might be the part you're missing, on that second team. Yeah. You're still throwing to guys who are going to be playing on Saturdays, who are very talented and can go make plays for you. So maybe the 7-on-7 and those sorts of things become a little bit easier because you're still working with the same kind of talent. But Stroud seems to be the guy. Everything that you read, or I haven't been to practice. I can't get in there. My name's on the no-fly zone.
You don't have
Woody Hayes, I think. I don't have that. But
here, just take some DNA off this.
But you hope that these. You got to think it's going to be one of those two guys that have been here for a year. They've been in the system. They know a little bit more about what is expected of them. They got to see Justin Fields do it and how he prepared. Yeah. In my head, I would think it'd be one of those guys. But we'll see what happens. Everybody's got to stay healthy. Everybody's got to continue to learn throughout the summer, and we'll see what happens come camp.
What's interesting too, and Justin talks about the rep splitting, is not all reps are created equal either, and you start getting into some of the situations and. Some of them are a little more advantageous. Okay, well, you get the third and short. Well, we hand it off 4 or 5 times. I'd rather be in the third and medium. Now, maybe you don't need to put me in the third and long. Like, I'm not trying to be there either. So just trying to figure out exactly where it is. And I would venture to guess, unless something changed, because I think a lot of it's leaning towards Stroud at this point, that as of this Saturday, they'll have a pretty good idea of coming into camp how they're going to structure the reps. Now, maybe something happens and someone else plays really well this week, and throws a wrench into it. But I would think that they'll have a pretty good idea formulated because I don't think the spring game they're going to put a lot of.
I hope they don't grade anything on.
No, I think a lot of it's going to be based upon, hey, we got one last really good on good session. How do you guys look there? And maybe it's not always just sheer statistics because. Justin, like there's plays you can make all the right reads as a quarterback and make a good throw, and the receiver may run a wrong route, maybe they drop the ball. Who knows what can happen. And so, are these guys executing? Are they doing what they need to do? Did you see the improvement from the beginning to now? Yep. And if you've seen that, okay, well, this race is still tight, and I don't necessarily want to start leaning too far one way or another yet.
With these young guys, when they make that mistake that they hadn't really had a chance to make yet, right? Because last spring. Yeah. They had a couple practices, during the season, scout team or this or that. This spring, all right, man, they made this mistake. We talked to them about it. We brought them in, showed them, talked to them about what we want them to do. By the end of spring, like Bob said, are they making that change? Are they picking up on it, realizing, man, I made that mistake 4 practices ago. I got to come back to this side or whatever it may be. So that'll be a big part of them watching that film, breaking down what these quarterbacks are doing.
Doc Tressel used to tell us about that. You got to make that change. For once in my life, it starts with the man in the mirror.
The man in the mirror.
I think
that and jump cuts.
Doc Tressel might have actually stolen that from
Michael Jackson.
I thought I'd heard that before.
Unless they collaborated when they wrote that song, but I don't think that they did. Nicole, it's been really interesting. Jay-Z just alluded to this with the making mistakes and how quickly you can learn from it when he's evaluating quarterbacks. It really applies to, any walk of life. And it's just been, I don't know, I'm always impressed by the way Ryan Day carries himself publicly, but when he talks about this stuff and the way he's looking at quarterbacks, and it's not, obviously part of it is how they throw the football and if they can score touchdowns and move the offense. But the other part is like, okay, well, you did make a mistake on this day. We know that you're talented, so can you correct the mistake? And that applies not just to quarterbacks, but really, any part of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We look at, guys, and I'm sorry, Trey Sermon last year.
Yeah.
He was coming in and you could see him kind of learning through the season. And then at the very end, he was phenomenal, and because he really took to heart everything, every mistake, or even if it wasn't a mistake, he just learned from every game, which were very fewer than usually would be. So I think that I would think Coach Day looks at all of these guys like, okay, who is going to pick up fast and not have that stubborn mind of, oh, I'll get it next time, but actually listen to their coaches and know I've got to make that change.
Yeah. And speaking of quarterbacks who got better, spring game that didn't really count, his first one, Justin Fields, I think he was 4 for 11 for 90-some yards on one throw, and that was pretty much it. I can't believe what we're hearing about him in this draft process. Bob, you were there to see what I think was one of the most impressive quarterback pro day passing performances I wasn't in the building, but that I've seen on television. That was it was what I expected, but it was insane what he did. And I don't know how much stock to put in it, but I've also seen him do it a lot in real games that count. I don't know what you've heard about it, but I feel Ryan Day's frustration boiled over on Friday, and he
came out and stood up for his guy. Yeah.
Oh, he came on the morning juice, and spilled it out there. It's his one read offense. Like, it's not only an indictment on Fields, it's also an indictment on him. Like, he was an NFL offensive coordinator. Like,
you're not coming in with anything better than one read.
Yeah, he's a one read guy. And so, listen, you're throwing routes on air. Jay-Z will tell you, if you're not completing 95% of your balls and routes on air, you have no business playing quarterback. He looked really good doing that. Everyone's looked really good. What I was impressed with is how well he ran. He ran a 4.4, low 4.40, which, hey, that's not an order like winner for me. But you know what? It's not the entree.
It's a nice thing to have.
It's a nice side dish. Okay, so now I know this guy has elite speed, so we can do some things with him, and he's going to be able to evade. He looked fast on tape, but now we're confirmed that he is fast, and he's NFL caliber fast. But I had one NFL scout tell me, he's like, there's nothing he could have done today that would have lowered my opinion. He's like, if we have a chance to take him, we're going to go get him. And that I feel like there's a decent number of teams. He's not for everybody. I think teams obviously have their preferences, but I then responded, well, what if he came in here like stone drunk and threw out his balls in the dirt? He goes, I just would have watched the Fiesta Bowl again and forgot about what I saw.
Exactly.
He's like, so we would have been good.
Yeah. If you come out of a pro day as a quarterback, unless you just sail every ball or this or that, you're pretty much set up for success. You know what the routine's going to be. You've run through the routine how many times, leading up to this day with the receivers. It's just you got to go out and just throw the ball around. And that's why I just can't stand all the hype and everything coming. It's like, come on, these guys are in shorts. They're throwing the ball down the field. They all have strong arms. They're all very good. Like, let's not go crazy. Look at the film. That's what I would rather pay attention to. You know, go watch Justin Fields play against Clemson. Not, can he run this way and throw the ball really far down that way? I mean, let's go watch him in a game, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
The fact that, and because I wasn't in the Woody on whenever that was last Tuesday, Mac Jones' pro day was right beforehand. And it was like those two people played different sports. I know Mac Jones is a good quarterback. He has to be much more athletic than I am, and I'll give him all the credit for that, right?
I don't know. I mean, come on now. You can swing a golf club.
But, I mean, he's trying to throw deep balls, and they're nowhere even near pro day receivers for Mac Jones. And Justin Fields is putting on, a tape clinic for how to throw the football and arm angles and on the move and the throw to C.J. Saunders that how many humans in the world could do what he did on that throw. And then you factor in, people are trying to tear down Justin Fields off the field, and Mac Jones is just over here with a police record that nobody even wants to acknowledge exists. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And how about just head-to-head against Trevor Lawrence in the Sugar Bowl? I mean, I just don't know what to make of it, Nicole. It's crazy. I feel like it's unfair to Justin Fields, but it's also part of the process because these organizations are investing millions of dollars in him.
But I was just going to say I 100% agree with Justin on. I just don't think it's fair to judge these guys on one day because that's not, anybody can have an off day. Anybody can. And yeah, don't get me wrong, you can't have a ton of off days when you're investing that much money. But, you need to look at the film and his performance. I mean, they work so hard to build up and look at learning from mistakes and just how much they've grown through their college career. Yeah. So I just don't think pro day, I get it, what it's for. I totally understand. I just think that they obviously need to look at more for that. And I also think this thing with Justin Fields, I feel like someone said something casually that had no idea that it would blow up this much because we know Justin Fields is phenomenal. We watched his performance last year.
Yeah, the thing that makes the most sense to me, which there's been a lot this last year of just, am I crazy? The last year I felt like that. But when you're talking about this instance here, the thing that makes the most sense to me is there's an NFL team out there who doesn't have a high pick that says, man, we'd really love it if you fell to us. Hey, I may have heard this from somebody. Go tell somebody at ESPN that, you heard this, right. And see if that can get that ball rolling. That makes the most sense because all we've ever seen since he got to Ohio State was, changed his body, changed his diet, fought for the Big Ten to be out playing football. He was a leader. He could have sat out and still gone to the draft and been a top 10 pick.
He would have been the number 2 pick if he hadn't played.
Yeah, what about all of that he's done in the last year and a half tells you, man, he doesn't really care about football or he doesn't want to, put the work in. It's insane that someone would come out and say that. But, makes the most sense. Patriots, Bill Belichick, he's been known to pull some things, right? He's sitting down there at 15 or somewhere along those lines. That makes the most sense to me.
I don't think that the Patriots are going to get Justin Fields.
No, I don't either, but they might trade up into 7 or 8 if he comes down there.
And that's the thing. It's the lying season, and so people put that out there, and I think it's been largely refuted. It's kind of because there's a lot of evidence. It's just not saying, well, this isn't the case. Well, if he didn't really love it and want to compete and want to do these things, then he wouldn't have just played this year. And I love that Ryan brought that up, he could have opted out like a lot of other people chose to do and really just subtly slid that in where you're not questioning those guys' love for the game when they decide to opt out. And
why didn't he just say Trey Lance's name out loud? I don't know.
Yeah, because Ryan's very subtle like that. You don't necessarily need to just stab him in the neck. Sometimes it's just a glancing little slice there of the abdomen and death by 1,000 cuts, and maybe that's more Ryan style. But I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I couldn't promise you how good he's going to be, but I know he's competitive enough. He's smart, and he has all the physical abilities. It just comes down to situation now and kind of who you're getting coached by, because I know that he wants to get it done.
All right, before Nicole goes back to doing her real job and we bring Spencer in to talk about more spring ball, Appetizer Tuesday.
Ooh, mac and
cheese bites. Get it.
Schlegel's favorite.
Can we call him the Schlegel special?
I know. We really. I feel like we should. Yes. Yes.
And we know that he can out-eat Berm on those, which
yes, he can.
I don't know how we're going to schedule that for the Roosters Foundation at some point. But what else? Anything else going on? People need to know about for Roosters.
Just patios.
We're back here next week.
Patios opening up. Yes, and tonight is. Monday night's wing
Ooh,
night. So yeah, and the game being on. So
will you guys be open
great.
for the whole game, or I guess there's no
What time?
limit
Yeah.
on when you have
Hey,
to close.
we've been on
Not
our best
curfew
behavior.
anymore.
We don't have curfew anymore.
Nope.
I didn't know if Dad came out and said, we got to go back to
It's
a
hard to
curfew or
keep up with
something.
everything.
It
yes.
is, no
Yes.
doubt.
So we'll be in dine-in or
Good.
area.
So, yeah, come watch the game here at
And then-
Roosters tonight.
I think we're in the process of maybe even setting up the competition between Austin on one of the patios between Austin and Dave Biddle in a 45-pound barbell bench up.
I thought I was just competing against Tommy Togia.
Well, and then I think we may have incorporated too, another, because you're a highly competitive guy like
I am,
Justin
yeah.
Fields, and I feel like the competition with someone else might even make that even better.
You need to tell me when it is so that I can resume training, because this has been my training for a long time.
Hey, Tommy
That's all you
Toe
need.
guy.
Roosters will do it for you.
So
All that protein.
Well, I mean, it's fuel. There's no doubt about that.
It's definitely
it fuels
fuel.
me through my week. There's no better place.
And we
to
have
start.
healthy options too. Grilled chicken. I
This
get
is
the
all
grilled
healthy.
chicken. Yes.
Nicole, this is all good for you, okay?
Yes,
It's-
it's all good.
Like,
I don't care about the for me part.
Yes.
It's all
Okay.
good.
this is fueling the entire.
I've been craving this since I missed last Monday.
Exactly right. Anytime you miss it, I can tell you when I was down in Texas, like I didn't even want to watch it because I wasn't able to be here.
Oh, guys, that's so nice of you.
All right, she's Nicole Cox. She's going to go. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back here on Lettermen Live. It's brought to you by Roosters.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart. And we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back to Lettermen Live. We are here at Roosters. Bob's going to town on the salad. He is taking that advice to eat healthy. I don't really approve
I'm
of
going to
that.
eat some of the other stuff
Okay,
too.
good deal. Spencer Holbrook has now joined us. He actually did not get to watch any practice on Friday or Monday, so I'm just going to rub that
Jeez.
in for him. But he's obviously doing a great job.
You grounded or something?
We have so many people in there.
That's
Jason.
a
Oh, is that what? I guess, yeah.
That's a
sorry.
question for the
I
sports
know.
information
Sorry,
department,
I
Daisy.
know, my bad.
But he has been doing a great job helping with the beat, as always. And we talked to Ryan Day again on Monday. The big thing there, Spencer, Buckeyes, these guys talked about getting to the end of spring and trying to stay healthy. Ohio State's going through that a little bit. Mitchell Melton, the latest one that's out, Seven Banks. He got hurt last week. Cameron Babb out. They're sort of mounting a little bit with,
Do we know the severity of Cameron Babb's injury?
I can't say for sure. I know that
It
there's
sounded
fear.
serious.
There's fear that this
I don't like fear.
this could be the one.
Bob, has it always been that way? I
He's
feel like when
scored-
I was talking to my buddy on the way down here, like I feel like when I got hurt back in college, like
No,
we knew what it was.
It's changed. It's
Yeah,
changed.
has it? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Well,
but-
Tim May used to call up and
Hey,
they just
one question, and then he'd ask you three.
Couple quickies.
You're like, I got confused, Tim.
Yeah, they've locked down the information a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just for Cameron Babb's sake, I've watched the kid rehab now, like I think 2 ACLs and maybe
Ugh.
something
Well, he
else.
had one when he got here. He did it 3 years in a row.
Yeah, and I like he's a really good
Great,
player.
yeah.
When I've watched him move, great athlete, built really well, good kid, and I'm like, and I heard that, like my heart sunk for him. Just going through like a couple severe injuries myself, and like but big periods in
Oh,
between.
yeah.
I can only imagine like, hey.
Yeah, you at least
back
got
on-
like healthy seasons in between,
Yeah.
right? For the most part.
I mean, he's been in a constant state of rehabilitation, which is just it. Psychologically,
Yeah, that
it's
messes
worse
with
than the
you.
physical part of it.
And that's a big one. So to answer your question, I don't know what the timeline is for this one, but I know that the way that they've mounted, there's at least some fear from now I would never count out Cameron Babb after
Yeah.
what he's already gone through, that this might be okay.
Don't
there's
call it a
CJ
comeback.
Stoney.
Don't call it a comeback.
No,
LL Cool
but
J.
just that you might be in that coaching, situation already, sort of like what CJ Saunders went through, and then you hope that you can get back. But the other part is he spent a lot of time talking with Johnny Dixon about similar processes and going through injuries, and we know that Brian Hartline, the role that he's played to help these guys get through it, it can happen. It's not as if he's not dead, but this is a bad setback, and if you have a pulse, your heart breaks for Cameron Babb and these other guys. I mean, that Mitchell Melton, that's Ryan Day said that's a long-term injury. So some of these have been minor. Seven Banks comes to mind. He'll be back. Dallas Gant will be back, but some of these are ones that could linger for a while. Spencer.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the ones that are just, general maintenance, keeping these guys out of spring, getting the off-season surgeries. You have that every year. You expect that on a roster, right?
Coming from someone, have you ever had surgery, Chaps?
No, but I'm saying like
General maintenance. It's like making it sound like you're dropping your car
for a football. No, I'm talking about for a football.
Check the oil. You remember getting the oil checked, Bob?
For a football roster, it's pretty standard practice to have guys with off-season surgeries, and so I'm just saying like that's general maintenance of a football roster. The guys go into surgery.
Yeah, guys fight through the season, so when the season's over, they
exactly.
I get it.
Bob's
I just did that. I got some maintenance done on Monday.
Bob's making it sound like I'm talking about oil changes here.
No, it's the joke. I forget I heard say this. It's only a minor surgery if it's not yours.
If it's not yours.
and not that it is. Like I joke about getting a scope, and I played with guys who get scoped on Sunday, like JT Barrett, and you spoke and turn around, spin around and play on Saturday. Like that's the reality of it. But just I always look at this, the general like maintenance, getting back together, is for some of these guys. Like how long does it linger? Will they be good by the end of June or end of May, early June, so you can have like a normal summer? Build up your strength, build up your conditioning, get in some of those 7-on-7s and different things? Or is it something where you'll be ready for camp, but you're going to be rehabbing up till like August 1st, and maybe it's a week or two there of running, and then you're going.
And they're bringing you in slowly, probably to practice because they know you're just coming off the injury and you're going to miss out.
And then you don't know if some of these guys are going to be ready when they start that conditioning and everything. Are they going to be ready for that trip to Minnesota? You've got long-term injury guys, and it just seems like this has been a bad luck spring for the Buckeyes. Last spring was the worst case scenario. Nobody got any reps. Now
nobody got hurt either.
Well, Master Teague did in week 1.
Like day one.
Yeah. Very few guys getting hurt last year. Even more guys getting hurt this year. It just seems to keep piling up, and you don't know what's changed or.
I think it's these guys will know better. Ryan Day said it this morning when I asked about Melton. Like, if you're going to get better at football, you have to play football. So you can't go out and practice and be afraid that you're going to lose somebody to injury. Yep. It could happen at any time.
Watching film only does so much. I mean, if you get better simply by watching,
I'd be really good.
Be a great football player. Just simply watching. Like, you have to get out there and it's an experiential product. You have to experience what's going on, make mistakes. Have Kerry Combs come over there. What are we doing? Give me some juice. Better footwork. And like his brain explode. Then Schlegs would take out a flask of coffee and just pour it in his mouth real quick, and he'd resurrect. Just like Easter Sunday there, and it'd be fantastic. And he'd go back to coaching, and that's how these guys would learn. And you give them a hug, and it's all well and good. But you have to make those mistakes. Like we heard Ryan talking about the quarterback. Well, you make it once, you make it again. Defensive back. Hey. You jumped over there on the post, and then the first post, and they banged the one right behind you. We're gonna learn it. We're gonna learn from that now. So when you see it there, it doesn't mean that's what they're gonna throw to. Yeah. They're doing it to pull you up, but you have to experience that, and you have to. We always talk about guys making plays. A lot of times you'll learn from those mistakes in practice, and you make it once, maybe twice, but eventually, like you can't keep making the same mistake again. You keep peeing on the carpet. You got to live outside.
Yeah, you live outside.
That's how you get to follow that, Jason.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm going to switch topics.
Next.
All right, the fact that some of these injuries they seem to be primarily on the defense.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go with. Linebackers, right?
Yeah.
We're replacing 4 of them. We already got a couple guys who are kind of dinged up, and then you lose another one that would look promising, right? Where do we sit at in that room?
Well, today, so again, this is only 6 periods of practice that I saw. It's a small slice of an overall pie, but that was almost all from what I saw this morning in nickel and extra defensive back, whether that's Craig Young at safety or in the bullet kind of hybrid role, whether that was Ronnie Hickman, who was also doing some of that stuff. There was Cody Simon and Taraja Mitchell, and then a bunch of defensive backs. Now, again,
Cody Simon getting that much run.
Yes,
Good
those
for him.
2 were out there with the first team.
Related to Carly Simon?
Well, that's a different show. That's Morning Juice. So guys dive into that when you have 3 hours. This, I don't know. Maybe it's just the day where you decided that you were going to work on nickel. That happens in spring, and I don't know. But there also aren't a ton of other options to help at linebacker.
There's not a ton of other options at defensive back either.
Well,
unless you have like the 5 down D lineman deal
dropping.
That's really it. I mean, those 2, the back end is thin right now,
and I think that's a fine situation in the secondary when you know that Seven Banks is just a maintenance guy, Bob, and you've got Cameron Brown who'll be back in the summer. You know what you're going to have there at cornerback. Safety is actually in a much better position this spring than it was all of last year. You had Lathan Ransom in there with Josh Proctor and Ronnie Hickman being able to help and do some other things, and Bryson Shaw. They're much healthier than they were at any point last year. And I think they're going to be just fine when Marcus Williamson is full go.
He's hampered?
He's been off and on. When I was out there today, he wasn't a full participant. Could be just the day, could be just the drill. Who knows? I don't think he has anything serious, but that part's going to be fine. I think I have more concern about the situation at linebacker than I did at the start of camp in March. We all know that they're going to be active in that transfer portal. We all know who they're after. I think that has become a much bigger deal for them because you're already going to be inexperienced, and now you've robbed Dallas Gann of a second spring. Mitchell Melton, who obviously didn't have one last year, and he doesn't get that one this year. I think there's a little bit of concern at this point for linebacker.
I mean, those are your guys.
It is, because you've got to play, and these guys have been in practice, but they've never been the lead guys. Mm-hmm. And so now you're going to start to see more things. They're going to ask for more flexibility. They're doing different things defensively. Like, there is a little bit of a learning. There's always a shift every year where you'll begin to do more of this, less of this, just based upon the talent and how the scheme's kind of fitting up with what they're doing. And Kayvon Pope practice, or is he hurt?
Yeah, he was there. He was, from what I saw, primarily with the twos.
Okay. And so, that's great for Cody Simon. He's a Bobby Carpenter recruit, by the way. So, out in New Jersey. Oh, goodness. Don Bosco, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, good kid. Very solid human being. To quote Urban Meyer, great family, by the way, and smart kid.
Not good, great.
Great. His brother went to Notre Dame. They didn't offer him. I'm like, why not? This guy looks pretty good to me on film. They had like 8 linebackers. They said they had no more room. So we ended up getting him here, and that's fantastic. And you know what? This is good for him. You're going to find out a lot about him early on, getting him in these situations. And he was there last year, but didn't really get all the development. That's him and Court come in, like these guys, hybrid, linebacker guys that can run, safety guys. You need to get the reps, and so this is big for him to get this, and this might end up being the difference. And Pope's been here for a while. You feel like he should know what's going on, and maybe it's just like, hey, he's made a couple mental errors. We'll put the young guy in there, see what he can do, and give him a day to kind of sink or swim and figure it out.
And he didn't even have a normal fall of practice. They were doing small group activity, and you're practicing on Tuesday. We're not practicing Wednesday, Thursday because of positive tests. Like everything that he had to go through, and now in his second year, his first little bit of normalcy in the program, he's already in the starting lineup. That tells you everything you need to know about where he's progressing and how good they think he could be. And then the other guy, Court Williams, keeps coming up, and Ohio State really hasn't seen him on the field at all. So they know the potential that he has. He could probably can play hybrid, play linebacker, play safety. He can play anywhere in that defense. Those two guys could be the key to this entire defense heading into the summer.
Another Carpenter recruit, by the way.
Jeez. And knocking it out of the park.
Did you help with Craig Young? Because this guy,
I did not help with Craig. I may have. I couldn't tell you that.
Oh, here we go. I think I did too. I don't know.
I specifically remember.
Jay-Z's on the phone.
I almost missed like part of a soccer game going to breakfast with those guys and their parents. So, just getting to talk to them about the school and the university, because both of them, great families, great kids, and really they're young men now. But this COVID separated guys. You can't learn how to play football by watching it, but you can learn the schemes. Mm-hmm. And so then you get in there knowing what to do is half the battle, and then, okay, now can I execute it? It's if you're lining up in the wrong spot, you're not doing this or that, physical mistakes are going to happen. Jumping a route or making this, doing that. But do you know the overall concept?
Are you where you're supposed to be?
Are you where you're supposed to be? Yeah. And that's big, and it's hard to do. Some guys have to, and it's not an indictment on it, but some guys are more adept to be able to learn off of a iPad. We used to say out of the book, playbook, but they can learn off of iPad better, and that has given them a leg up in this situation.
Yeah.
Bob,
go ahead.
One of the most interesting things that I've heard this entire spring so far is, I can't remember which defensive back said it. They said Kerry Combs is teaching the defense why they're supposed to be where they are.
Josh Proctor was talking.
Josh Proctor said that. Why they're supposed to be there. And I think the guys that are able to grasp why they're doing what Kerry Combs is teaching, since they didn't have spring, they barely had anything in the fall. If they've been able to learn why they're supposed to be in a certain place over the last year, they're going to be on the field based on what the defense looks like right now.
Yeah, tell me, you two who have been through this, my interpretation of that was not that Jeff Hafley didn't know how to teach defense or that anybody else, but that there's a point in your careers where you just learn how to listen better, and you start to grasp those concepts. Because I've known Josh Proctor for a long time, and before he got here, and he had to grow up. He'd be the first to admit that. I don't think that we know Jeff Halfley can coach defense and teach, but I don't think that was the issue. But Spencer brings up a good point that until those guys understand it, and maybe it's on them, maybe it's the coach, maybe it's a combination of the two, you're not going to be able to execute it. But I think it's more of him being at that point of his career where, all right, he's not just learning where he's supposed to go, but then he's got that part down.
If you learn the why, and this is it's basically learning the whole concept of the defense of what you're trying to accomplish, because everything is going to be every play is designed for success on offense. Every defense is designed for success on defense. Now, there's certain things they're better at than others, and there's certain limitations that they're going to have. And so teaching the why is like, hey, Josh, this is why you're going to be in the middle of the field here. And so this is what we're trying to accomplish. So if you show over to this side, that's a good thing because it's going to confuse the quarterback. If you show over here, it's not doing anything because it's going to give it away and it's going to show what we're doing. And so this is a little bit of what the why helps bring about is you begin to understand where you fit as a piece in that. Yep. And if I can shift this piece over here, yeah, it's going to be really confusing. And how much liberty can I take with that? And that's what, everyone remembers the play where Tuff Borland's chasing down Devonta Smith in the national championship game. They put Devonta Smith at number 3, go 3-by-1. He's the inside player. Why are they doing that? Because they're going to put him on a linebacker. They're going to find the least athletic guy in the back 7, usually one of the inside backers, Tough, Schlegs, someone like that. And we're going to run this guy down the field. And they're in 3 deep. We're going to bend him to the backside. Free safety is supposed to be in the middle of the field. On that play, I think it was Marcus Williamson was supposed to be there. Marcus Williamson's played corner and nickel his whole career. And so if you have an experienced safety who's played that before, and this is what Josh Proctor, you look around and say, why the heck is the best guy right there?
In there, yeah.
And then I start looking at the guy, well, that's who's going to have to take him. Mm-hmm. I might not have to, and I'm going to
keep an eye on those.
I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to lean to this guy, and I might even tell our nickelback who maybe has to run with the other guy. You're going to be more on your own. Why? Well, because of that. All right, you got it.
Look at the quarterback. His eyes are this big because he sees what he's about to do.
He looked at it. He licks his fingers. He knows exactly where we're going, and so that's why you cheat over and do that. And some of the best safeties, like, hey, I've got you right here. Just play underneath. If he throws over top, we'll pick it. He goes, I'm going to jump it late. And those are the guys that are great. And so hopefully that's the why stuff.
Yeah.
When you get to be really good, and he may even hang, and he's ready to break on the throw because he knows it's going there. Because only an idiot wouldn't throw to a Heisman Trophy winning receiver on a linebacker.
Well, are you suggesting that Mac Jones was in a one-read offense?
Yeah, well, that was the first read. If that wasn't the first read, it's a faulty play design.
Yeah, no doubt. I think a lot of it comes down to maturity of these young guys too, though, when teaching the why, right? Because they want to go make plays. We can't have you jumping this because the why of the defense, you're going to be open on the backside or this or that. So as they mature and they grow and understand the defense a little bit better, they understand I don't have to make every play. I got to play my spot. I got to be where I'm supposed to be in this defense to make sure it works the way it's supposed to. And as they get older and they go through it, and they have some instances where I did it my way. I got yelled at for being out of position, and they scored a touchdown. Maybe they go back to those moments and say, "This is why they're teaching it this way now," and we got to just play our position and play what we're supposed to do.
Spencer, anything else that you're looking for in the last 2 weeks here?
I asked Ryan Day today about defensive tackle, and he's
looking for a press credential to get into practice.
No kidding. Jeez,
sorry to interrupt.
I can only do one. I can only do so much. I got to take care of me first.
Yeah, no doubt.
I respect that. I promise. No, I asked Ryan Day about defensive tackle today, and he seemed really excited about where they're at with that. He mentioned a freshman, Tyleik Williams, who I'm really high on coming in, like 330 pounds, can really run stuff, and where they need that, Tommy Togiai's gone. But he was really high on Teron Vincent, a former 5-star guy, and I think that is a huge development that's kind of going under the radar because Tommy Togiai is not going to be an easy guy to replace. He could move interior offensive linemen. That's not easy to do in the Big Ten. If Teron Vincent can take a step and line up beside Haskell Garrett and complement those defensive ends, you're talking about going back to a dominant Ohio State defensive line. I'm not sure if they were quite there as an entire unit last year as far as getting to the quarterback. I think they can be if Teron Vincent takes that next step. Now I'm starting to think he can because of what I heard from Ryan Day, and I know there's a little bit of, let's praise the guy to get him, just to praise him.
Well, I mean, Ryan Day generally is much more reserved and cautious about singling out a single person.
Yeah.
Usually, this is the unit or we're rotating. That was unprompted. You didn't specifically say, let's talk about Teron Vincent.
Really brought it up.
And it was
He went on a little spiel about Teron.
Which that's going to be huge because those guys up front, maybe you're a little thin at linebacker, maybe you're a little thin at second. If you're getting to the quarterback or you're plugging up things, with the defensive line, that's going to help the defense out tremendously. So that's huge if, we're getting some guys that can plug the middle up there, and then you just got to let those guys on the edge get after it.
love when we're getting these kind of developments as spring ball rolls along. We're into April. The weather's getting nicer. We're going to get to see some more of that in person, especially on April 17th for the spring game, which is coming. We'll have more coverage every day, all year round at Lettermen Row. This is Bobby Carpenter, Justin Zwick. That's Spencer Holbrook. We appreciate Nicole Cox and Roosters for having us again for Lettermen Live. I am Just Austin Ward. We'll see you again next week right here for Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters.